Anxiety is a difficult thing to deal with no matter what your age. It can cause you to miss out on opportunities. It can make you feel like there's something wrong with you, or it just plain doesn't feel good. In this video, I want to reach out to any parents whose children are currently suffering from anxiety and show you a couple ways you can go about helping them with this. So let's get started. Anxiety is the #1 mental health ailment for all of us. At any given time, over 50% of people seeking therapy are doing so because of anxiety. It's that common, it's that normal. But there are a lot of misconceptions about anxiety as well. So let's talk about some of these misconceptions and how you can help your child who struggles with anxiety. First, if your child struggles with anxiety, the goal is really not to eliminate the anxiety, but rather to help your child learn how to manage it. We can't actually remove all of the stressors that trigger somebody's anxiety, because if we did that, we would be slowly pulling them away from real life in the real world, and they have to learn how to live in the real world. So for example, if your child is anxious about school, the solution absolutely is not to pull them out of school. If they're anxious about homework, the solution is not to remove the homework. The goal instead is to teach them how to tolerate their anxiety and function as best they can. Many years ago, we had this freak tornado come through Utah. I think this was over 20 years ago. We're not used to getting tornadoes in Utah, and it caused some kids a lot of anxiety. I probably ended up seeing myself 5 or 6 kids in therapy that following year with weather-related anxiety that was strictly related to that tornado. One of the kids I saw in therapy was a little girl, and she had developed a fear of running water. I know that sounds strange, but running water caused her to panic. I'm telling you this story to illustrate that we can't remove stressors, because then our kids can't live in the real world. This girl absolutely had to learn how to live with running water, otherwise she'd never be able to take a bath. When something makes us anxious, we want to avoid doing whatever that thing is, right? I am freaked out by snakes and spiders, so you can better believe that I'm going to avoid these at all costs. But if I'm ever to overcome my fear of snakes and spiders, it will have to come from being exposed to the snakes and spiders. With this girl who had a fear of running water, we had to do what we call exposure therapy. I had to teach her some skills for relaxation, which we did with simple deep breathing, and then we progressively exposed her to more and more situations in which there was running water. At first, it was a picture of running water. That just elicited a mild anxious response from her. Then we developed other scenarios that caused slightly more and more anxiety. Kind of went up this ladder. The last scenario was literally her turning on a bath to run some water. My point here is that exposure to the thing that caused her anxiety is actually how we helped her with her anxiety. Before we move on to next points, I want to thank you for watching this video. Are you struggling to communicate with your child or to discipline them effectively? None of us are given a manual when our kids are born with all the rules and steps and things that we need to do, so we learn by trial and error. Well, that's what this channel is all about. It's about using my system of correcting and connecting to build a strong, trusting, and influential relationship with your child. If that's the kind of thing you want to know more about, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share this with your friends. Now let's get back to the video. Remember also that dealing with anxiety is a long-term process. It takes a lot of time and a lot of exposure to become what we call habituated. Habituation is a term that basically means becoming accustomed to something. Habituation comes from repeated exposures over time. So many years ago, I lived next door to this poor little dog that had been abused by a previous owner. And anytime we went to pet this little dog, he just cowered. He thought we were coming to hurt him. And it took a while for him to habituate to us, to become accustomed to us, because he eventually realized that we just wanted to give him some love. It's also important to remember that anxiety is genetic. If your child has anxiety, one of your child's parents probably has anxiety too. For some of us parents, myself included, we have to be very careful that we don't project our feelings onto our kids. What I mean by that is that you don't start managing your child's anxiety because you get it or because you understand exactly what they're going through. In essence, you're just managing your own anxiety, and it will be extra hard but extra important that you teach your kids how to deal with it and not avoid it. I have seen problems with parents projecting anxiety or becoming avoidant with their kids because of their own anxiety. Many times I've seen that. Lastly, don't let the anxiety itself become a part of your child's identity. For some reason, many kids nowadays identify with certain mental health struggles. It's almost as if that's a core part of their identity, saying, I have anxiety, I have bipolar disorder, I have ADHD. Those are common ways that kids have described themselves to me. I never like it when someone, especially a young person, when they over-identify with a diagnosis, as if that is a description of who they are. I would much rather your child's identity be, I can do hard things. I may have anxiety, but I can tolerate it and I can do hard things. Do you sometimes struggle to discipline your child effectively? Do they misbehave or act out or leave you scratching your head wondering what to do or even how to reach them at all? I've spent the last 25 years as a clinical psychologist working primarily with children, adolescents, young adults, and their families. I've seen how these principles I teach have benefited my family and so many others. I want you and your family to have this too. That's why I've created a free ebook about how to discipline effectively. And believe me, it is not what you think. This will help you correct and connect with your child. It contains distilled information from my 25 years as a clinical psychologist, and it is designed to give you an understanding of effective parenting tools as well as practical steps you can take starting today. Just click on the link in the video description below, fill in your details, and I'll send it right over to you.